Everyone, and welcome to another episode of Arena Frontier here on Gateway Sports. Getting very close to the tail end of the 2026 season and going into the off season of 2027. We already have announcements already earlier about expansion teams that are coming for 2027, though it seems like there is a very good chance that the newest market that was going to be part of the arena football in 2027 might actually have two different teams from two different leagues. So it's going to be quite interesting how that goes because we already have two arena teams, the San Diego Strike Force for the IFL and for the AF1, the now newly named Oceanside Stealth, share the same arena. So we'll talk about that in a little bit here, but first let's get down to playoff action here because we got more playoffs here because this weekend we actually have two championship games, so two of the league seasons will come to a end here for 2026 and move on to 2027. Though I will say with one of those leagues there are some questions here, but I digress. First, let's do the indoor football league because now they were doing the quarterfinals of their playoff schedule here, and first and foremost, we got the Tulsa Oilers versus was the 3 seed, and then the 2 seed. Sorry about that. Excuse me. And we got basically, if you're going by seeding, we had a upset when the Tulsa Oilers beat the who had home field advantage here, the Jacksonville Sharks, in a very close and low-scoring game, which was very surprising with these two. This was more of a defensive game here with, strangely for Tulsa, TJ Edwards didn't have much of a passing completion there, though he had some legs, though they had some help when it comes to return for running there. So it was kind of interesting to see this game, how it played out, especially on the other side with Jacksonville, with Sammy Edwards and with Jimmy Robinson Jr. getting more touchdowns rushing combined than Sammy Edwards, who only got one touchdown in the air and one on the ground. So it's just been a very interesting weekend here. So first and foremost, very competitive game. It's just that the Tulsa Oilers were able to come back and beat the Jacksonville Sharks 31-28. Just look how the scoring was here. First quarter, Tulsa 7, Jacksonville 14. Second quarter, Tulsa got shut out, but only Jacksonville scored 6 points. Then in the third quarter, Tulsa came back with 14, but Jacksonville came with 6. But then Jacksonville only got a deuce, but then Tulsa was able to get 10 more points and was able just to beat Tulsa here by 3 points, 31-28. So amazing how it goes there, because I will say that the rest of the games were technically more higher scoring than this one here this weekend during the late playoff season. So it was just quite amazing how this went. So where we go here, I'm trying to find, not there yet. So I'm sorry, had to double check something there. So it just seemed very kind of interesting how that went here. And like I said, very game, and also causing the Jacksonville Sharks, still a young team, because honestly, this will probably be in 2020 one of the more higher seeded and more better teams of the IFL here in 2027. So it's just pretty much amazing how that went there. So I'm just very surprised on how that went. So, like I said, and here are the stats here. Like I said, Tulsa quarterback TJ Edwards, 11 through 22, 132 yards, one touchdown, 9 attempts for 25 yards, and two rushing TDs. Running back Caleb Ramser, 16 attempts, 41 yards, touchdown, 3 receptions for 39 yards. Wide receiver TJ Davis, 4 receptions, 60 yards, and then 1 rushing attempt for 7. Wide receiver Catron Jackson Jr., 3 receptions, 11 yards. Best defense performance for the Oilers. Trey Harvey, 6 tackles and 1 assist. Jacksonville quarterback Sammy Edwards, 11 through 20, 129 yards and a touchdown. 9 attempts for 62 yards and a touchdown. Running back Jimmy Robinson Jr., 12 attempts, 39 yards, 2 TDs, 4 receptions, and 31 yards. Wide receiver Jaden Strostak, 4 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive performance, Chris Rice, 4 tackles, 3 assists, and sorry about that, technical difficulties there. And then for the next part of the Eastern Conference, you have the number 4 Orlando Pirates versus the Green Bay Blizzard. And boy, they did not disappoint here whatsoever. So it it was just very going back and forth and not really much defensive play. Heck, there were it was getting close to like, man, is there going to be a total of 200 points being scored here for how this was going? But Green Bay and Orlando, you expected this to be a good matchup between the two, and it's still quite amazing what would have happened. Orlando did not use Rob Keefe earlier in the season and maybe had a better seeding because they came to number 4 because after the coaching change there was a little bit of a hiccup, but then they got back in. But if Orlando actually had a higher seeding, they might actually be in the conference championship right now instead of facing Green Bay. They could have been the number 2 seed like Jacksonville, and that would have been actually an interesting matchup. How that would get, but what else? Am I right? Both quarterbacks, Paxton Taylor and Liam Thompson, went back and forth, high touchdowns. None of them threw any interceptions, which was quite surprising. But like I said, it really wasn't much of a defensive game between these two, and it was it was like exciting to see it. So one thing with these two teams, like, because remember Green Bay Blizzard, you thought they would have to do a total rebuild because once again they lost their star quarterback and running back to the Arizona Rattlers, and we will be talking about them soon. And it's just kind of interesting. You lose your two offensive star players, but yet you got two new guys, and then we're able to still get the number 1 seed and then play as well as you did and be able to stay the number 1 seed and win at home and able to host the Eastern Conference game next week, 73-59 over the Orlando Pirates. So it will be the Tulsa Oilers going to Green Bay for the Eastern Conference Championship for the Indoor Football League. And this was a fun game. If you're able to see a replay of it, sometimes the Yahoo Sports Network might have like the replay of it, but if you're able to, I recommend watching this. I had fun watching it. A lot of us did too. So it's just very interesting how that came to be here. So like I said, Orlando quarterback Paxton Taylor at 22-34, 283 yards, 8 TDs, 1 and 10 for 8 yards. Running back Puka Williams, and he did a lot for this game. 9 attempts, 30 yards, and a touchdown, 6 receptions, 86 yards, 2 TDs, and then 3 kick returns for 24 yards. Wide receiver Thomas Owens, 8 receptions, 114 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Tio Redding, 5 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Naquan Murray, 3 receptions, 30 yards, and 2 TDs. And best defensive for the Pirates, interesting name, Smoke Monday. 3 receptions, 5 tackles with 1 assist. Then Green Bay, Liam Thompson, 13-17, 171 yards, 7 TDs, 3 rushing attempts for 30 yards. Running back Demillion Brown, 3 rushing attempts for 49 yards, a touchdown, 1 reception for 6 yards. Wide receiver Trevon Alexander, 5 receptions, 76 yards. Excuse me, 4 TDs, 1 attempt for 2 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Isaiah Ross, 3 receptions, 46 yards, 2 TDs. Savary Campbell, 7 receptions, 32 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Drayson Hudson, 2 receptions for 10 yards and 1 attempt for 8 yards. And best defense for Andre White Jr., 5 tackles and 2 assists. So, like I said, For the Eastern Conference Championship in indoor football, like it'll be the Tulsa Oilers going to the Green Bay Blizzard, the 3 seed versus the 1 seed, and it's going to be a very interesting game, that for sure. Now let's get into the Western Conference games. First would be the number 3 Arizona Rattlers against the number 2 seed Vegas Nighthawks and defending champions. Once again, this was a very competitive game. A little bit, well, I'll say not low scoring, not high scoring, but mid scoring. But very competitive. Like defense was there more than it was for the previous game I mentioned. And we will, and for the 2026 season, there will be a new champion because the Arizona Rattlers beat the defending champion, the Vegas Nighthawks, at their place. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Both the 2, 3, and 2 seeds, both 2 seeds at home lost their game, so that was very interesting. Of course, this one was basically a coin flip anyway because of how talented these 2 teams were, but it was just kind of interesting. Though Max Malar, uh, what's the best way to say this? Played good, but completion percentage wise, it was still below half, but still, I don't know if you look at a QBR rating, it's still kind of okay, but I digress. But like I said, this was a very good game, though sad for the Nighthawks. I guess was their version of the big game hangover that happens in the NFL, and the Vegas Nighthawks lose and will not be defending their championship. So once again, the Arizona Rattlers beat the defending champs Vegas Nighthawks 47-36. Arizona Rattlers quarterback Max Malar, 7 through 18, 63 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception, 1 rushing attempt for 63 yards. Running back Kamari Clark, 4 attempts, 37 yards and a touchdown, 1 reception, 8 yards. Running back Ron Brown Jr., 4 attempts, 29 yards, a touchdown, 1 reception for 9 yards. Wide receiver Corey Reed Jr., 2 receptions, 24 yards and a touchdown, 2 rushing attempts for 5 yards. Wide receiver Arlen Bruce IV, 1 reception for 11 yards. 1 TD, 3 rushing attempts for 4 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jaden Horace, 1 reception, 9 yards and a touchdown. And best defensive performance for the Arizona Rattlers, Devontae Merriweather, 8 tackles and 2 assists. Vegas quarterback Jaden DeLora, 9 through 21, 122 yards, 2 TDs, 3 rushing attempts for 20 yards. Running back Josh Tomas, 9 attempts, 44 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 33 yards. Running back Antonio Wimbush, 2 attempts, 5 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Quentin Randolph, 4 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown, 3 attempts for 20 yards. Wide receiver Seneca McLeod, 2 receptions, 10 yards and a touchdown. And best defensive performance, Isaiah Major for the Nighthawks, 6 tackles and 3 assists. Then we have the San Diego Strike Force versus the Tuscan Sugar Skulls. It was a rematch from the previous week where both the starting quarterbacks of both teams were resting in order to prepare for this game. And this game, once again, pretty similar. Did not disappoint either. Close game. And honestly, it kind of looked there for it. Maybe the Tuscan Sugar Skulls were going to pull the victory here. But unfortunately, San Diego Strike Force, the number 1 seed, beat the Tuscan Sugar Skulls. And like I said, it was going to be hard, but it was very close. And Tuscan loses the opportunity because remember, the championship game is held at their place in Tuscan, Arizona. So though this would technically it's a short trip for Arizona since they're going to be going to now the San Diego Strike Force's place in that arena. So 1 versus 3 there. So that's going to be an interesting conference championship there. So, but very close game, going back and forth a little bit. But like I said, the San Diego Strike Force beat the Tuscan Sugar Skulls 54-47. And hard to say, this is another game that people should watch if they're able to on the Yahoo Sports Archive. Because I try to remember where like replays are. They're not on YouTube. So something to think about there for next year for the IFL. So, Tuscan quarterback Jerome Johnson, 9 through 20, 85 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception, 6 rushing attempts, 87 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Running back Brandon Mackey, 7 receptions, 27 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception for 10 yards. Wide receiver Isaiah Cox, 4 receptions, 41 yards, and 2 TDs. Best defensive performance, Bernard C. Block, 3 tackles, 5 assists. San Diego quarterback Nate Davis, 19 to 31, 214 yards, 5 TDs, 4 rushing attempts for 15 yards. Running back Kyle Kelly, who was the backup quarterback, who was the starting quarterback last week for the Strike Force, 5 attempts, rush attempt for 17 yards and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Jalen Sample, 7 receptions, 76 yards, 5 touchdowns. And best defensive performance, Jamor Colson, 1 tackle, 1 assist, and 1 interception. So that concludes for the Indoor Football League because, like I said, this weekend's the Conference Championship. Next week, their championship game. Before we get to the semifinals for the AF1, one thing with the National Arena League, there was a new team called the Tri-City Horsemen that is, I believe, Kearney, Nebraska. I have to know, it's in Kearney. I'm trying to remember where it was. And the tourism there said that they were going to play in the National Arena League. But then for the second time, this is the second time the National Arena League have to put news about a potential team coming to the National Arena League. And then the National Arena League put out a statement, and it reads as follows. Over the past several League and will not be competing as an NAL franchise during the upcoming 2027 season. However, after many conversations with Chris Reynolds, we understand the organization tends to move forward with competing during the 2027 season, and we wish them nothing but success in their endeavors. The National Arena League appreciates the efforts of Chris Reynolds and his organization, in support of their continued growth. We value the relationship we have built with Chris, as well as contributions his organization has made to the league, and we look forward to revisiting the opportunity for the Tri-City Horsemen to return to the National Arena League when the organization feels the time is right. The National Arena League remains committed to working with our member organizations as we pursue a shared vision of long-term stability, professionalism, and the continued growth of indoor football. We appreciate the continued support of our fans, partners, and member teams, and we look forward to an exciting 2027 season. I believe this was the former Ideal Horsemen, and they moved to Kearney, but they won't be in the National Arena League. So it was a team that and the organization that was part of the National Arena League last year. They said they were put on pause, and now they moved out of Idaho, and now they're in Kearney. So it's kind of interesting now, and so it's interesting how this went here. So, well, we'll see where they go to is the question. The question is, where do now the Tri-City Horsemen go? Because they could go to the AF1. They could go to... I don't think they're going to the Indoor Football League because the two teams, well, we're going to mention that here in a moment. So that's just kind of interesting there. So let me get that out of there. And let's go to what I mentioned over. Because, see, already earlier, Austin, Texas was already going to be a new franchise that was going to be put in expansion for the Indoor Football League in 2027. But then something happened a few days ago, and it did happen. Can't recall which game it was because there was a video and you could watch it on YouTube on the AF1 YouTube page. There was talk of meeting the new owners of the Austin, Texas Bulls for not the Indoor Football League, but for the Arena Football 1. And here's the article here that was announced on August 1st. Arena Football 1 is expanding into Texas capital city with the Austin, Texas Bulls expected to play in 2027 as the league continues its effort to establish a stable national footprint. The expansion returns arena football to a market that previously supported several indoor arena franchises, most notably the Austin Wranglers of the original Arena Football League. While Austin has been long viewed as the promising football market, previous franchise ultimately struggled to achieve long-term stability. The Bulls are led publicly by owner and president Cody Trapp and co-owner Shauna Sinau, who have outlined plans to build a permanent professional arena football organization in one of the nation's fastest growing metropolitan areas. For Arena Football 1, the announcement represents another significant step in its measured expansion strategy following its inaugural season. Austin offers several advantages that have made it an attractive destination for professional sports. The metropolitan area has experienced rapid population growth, boasts one of the nation's strongest technologically driven economies, has developed into a major league sports market with passionate football fans and expanding corporate sponsorship opportunities. League officials have repeatedly emphasized that future growth will focus not only on attractive markets, but also on ownership groups capable of sustaining long-term operations. That approach reflects lessons learned throughout arena football's turbulent history, during which numerous leagues and franchises folded because of inadequate capitalization, rising operation costs, and unstable ownership. Professional arena football remains an expensive business despite its smaller scale. Player salaries, travel, arena leases, insurance, equipment, housing, and gaming operations create significant financial demands that extend well beyond opening night. The success of the Bulls, like every expansion franchise, will ultimately be measured not by the excitement surrounding the announcement, but by the organization's ability to establish a sustainable business model over multiple seasons. Austin's football culture suggests that the market could support professional arena football. Whether the franchise becomes a long-term success will depend on execution, community support, and organizational stability. For Arena Football 1, the Bulls represent another opportunity to demonstrate that the modern version of arena football can grow deliberately while avoiding the boom and bust cycle that has defined much of the sport's history. If successful, the Austin, Texas Bulls could become one of the league's cornerstone franchises and one of America's most dynamic sports market. Which again also was interesting because the Baymont Renegades, the other Texas franchise that's in one knows at this point, so I have no idea. So I digress. No one knows what's happening when it comes to the Stockton Crusaders. It's mostly since a lot of their posts deal with more of AI slop as the terminology goes. So we just don't know. All right, now we get to the semifinals here. First one, the Minnesota Monsters versus the Albany Firebirds. And both of these games were offensive, like back and forth games too. And dear Lord, cause like this one here, it was very good here. Like once again, there's not really much defense except for maybe throwing in just maybe one interception or two here. And Minnesota Monsters did good and very good here, but Albany just was just too powerful. Just had a lot more slider edge than continuing what they did last year. But I do have good an idea that the Minnesota Monsters will be a powerhouse soon enough, and they'll get a championship here soon. So it's just amazing how this goes here. So, like I said, the Albany Fiber just beat out the Minnesota Monsters in this high offensive power game, 69-56. Both Javante Johnson and Sam Casanova just did extremely, extremely well here. So. Let's see here. So, like I said, and both of the like Javante Johnson, they like I said, it was just a good quarterback battle here. Minnesota quarterback Javante Johnson, 27 of 49, 416 yards, 8 TDs, 2 interceptions. Wide receiver Javari Flowers, 7 receptions, 157 yards, and 5 TDs. Wide receiver Carlos Thompson Jr., 10 receptions, 193 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Gunnar and tight end Gunnar Harback, 1 reception, 3 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance, defensive back LeBron Mallory, 3 tackles and one attack. Albany quarterback Sam Castro, 20 through 27, 304 yards and 9 TDs. Wide receiver Dwayne Brown, 6 receptions, 108 yards and 4 TDs. Wide receiver and 6 receptions, 109 yards and 4 TDs. Wide receiver Isaiah Scott, 6 receptions, 69 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performance, linebacker Drew Singleton, 2 tackles, 3 assists and 1 interception. Next one was, again, a good back and forth battle. And this was getting close to having 200 overall points in this game here. The Michigan Arsenal go to Nashville Cats. And once again, this was another good Malik Henry showing that he's actually one of the more younger, powerful arena football quarterbacks in all arena football. It's just quite amazing because seriously, but it wasn't good enough, and Nashville Cats beat the Michigan Arsenal in their inaugural year 92-76. And both the games were on Vice, though I wouldn't be surprised. Hopefully there's a replay on the YouTube. You would think they would probably do that, or some highlights. I recommend going and seeing both of those. So yeah, Malik Henry, 28-52, 452 yards, 11 TDs and 1 interception, 3 rushing attempts for 1 yard. Wide receiver J.S. Gruesome, 13 receptions, 232 yards, 6 touchdowns. Wide receiver Daniel William III, 2 receptions, 46 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Travante Lawns, 8 receptions, 72 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver Karate Brenson, 5 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance, Burdell Robbins, 5 tackles and 1 interception. Nashville quarterback Tyler Kolka, 18-29, 371 yards, 9 TDs, 1 interception. Wide receiver BK Smith Jr., 6 receptions, 107 yards, 3 TDs, 1 rushing attempt for 4 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Kendall Williams, 5 receptions, 124 yards, and 4 TDs. Wide receiver Malik Honeycutt, 5 receptions, 100 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jordan Gandy, 2 receptions, 4 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive performance, linebacker Derek Maxwell Jr., 6 tackles and an interception. So good there. So, like I said, the Arena Football 1 Championship will be the rematch of last year, the Albany Firebirds at Nashville. So it'll be held in Nashville, and we'll see what happens there. And as we'll see if with an owner, Jeff Jarrett, who was a new minority owner of the Nashville Cats, get a championship, and we'll see if that happens soon. All right, we got the Arena League semifinals here. First one, you had the Monroe Greenheads versus the Arkansas Diamonds. Both the Arena League games were very competitive. I recommend that you go see them. The replays are on YouTube. Still wish they had stats. But with the semifinals, the Arkansas Diamondbacks beat the Monroe Greenheads at home 59-43. And then the St. Joseph Goats upsets the Nebraska Siege by 1 point, 57-56, beating the St. Joseph Goats. And the championship game will be played at St. Joseph, Missouri. Wish I could make that. It's on the other side of the state where I live, but I do recommend it. So St. Joseph Goats versus the Arkansas Diamonds. Of course, this is a new champion since the last year was the Duluth Harbor Monsters, who are now the Minnesota Monsters. So hopefully we don't have any more champions go and join a different league now, don't we? So like I said, the Arkansas Diamonds are going to St. Joseph to play the national championship. Now we get to the Arena League, which it's interesting how they're doing this format here, because this one, like I said, they're doing, even though you're seeing everyone has a chance to make it. Of course, now we have because you had the Arizona Juggernaut versus European Stars, and then the Las Vegas Rockers gets the Pennsylvania Benjamins, the lower seed, all the low seed teams out of the 6, while the number 1 and 2 seed have a bye. And for this one, it wasn't expected. It was expected the Arizona Juggernauts beat the European Stars 75-40, but then upsetted the Las Vegas Rockers, that were actually the 6th seed, beat the 4 seed at Pennsylvania Benjamin 56-48. Now, the losers, the European Stars and Pennsylvania Benjamins, are now going into the losers bracket now. While now the Las Vegas, the lower seed, they are going to be going to and I have to remind myself, all the games are in Las Vegas, so they have the home field there, are going to face the number 1 seed Cincinnati Slingers. And then then the Arizona Juggernauts, and these two have been going a back and forth right here, are facing the Utah Grade Eights also on Saturday here. So it's going to be quite interesting here. So let me go through all the games here. Kind of a short show because of how the game's started. So, but next week I am going to try to. There's a good chance there's going to be guests here, so can have a longer show here because, like I said, it's getting smaller and smaller, and there's going to be a week there's only one game because, like, I'm still contemplating because of how the International Arena League. It's still amazing how they're still trucking with how disastrous that league is, but they're still going. It's just interesting that they're just still going. So let me go by my picks here. So for Sunday, it's like all the other games are on Saturday, but the only Sunday games are the IFL games, and all these games are on the Yahoo Sports Network. The number 3 Tulsa Aura versus the Green Bay Blizzard at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. It's going to be a toss-up, but I'll still give Green Bay the edge. Then at 7:30 Eastern, the Arizona Rattlers versus San Diego Strike Force. Once again, this is also going to be a coin flip. Though, just to be interesting, I'll go with the Arizona Rattlers to beat San Diego Strike Force at home and then have the matchup of the two players facing their former team for the championship. That is going to be interesting storyline in television, I will say. Well, not television, streaming at this point. So I'll go to Arizona Rattlers over to San Diego Strike Force. AF1 Championship is on Saturday. This will be on Vice TV at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. And this one's like a coin flip too. I'll just give an edge to Nashville just a little bit. Okay. It's not going to be the Colcomania Bowl again rematch since Sam Castro is the quarterback. So I'm going to go with Nashville just beating out Albany just a little bit, but Albany has a good chance of winning this too. The Arena League Championship, and I like this. 3 hours later, then you go on YouTube for the Arkansas Diamonds for the St. Joseph Goats. I'll go with rooting for a team in Missouri. I'll go with the St. Joseph Goats, and this is at 7 on YouTube. Then for the International Arena League, I'm going to have Cincinnati over the Las Vegas Rockers. That's at 7 o'clock Pacific time. There. Then the game before, game 3, that's at 4 o'clock Pacific. Why they put the... Never mind. The Utah Grays versus the Arizona Juggernauts. Why not just go a little bit more chaos? Let's have the Arizona Juggernauts beat the Utah Grade Eights. They both face each other and beat each other, so you never know what's going to happen here. But those are my picks, and thank you for joining me this evening for this little quick show of Arena Frontier here. Got just a few more shows for the 2027 season. Then it's going to be a little bit of a hiatus, and then we're going to go to the 2027 off season with some news here because there is going to be the only off-season that's guaranteed within the next few weeks is what the actual team name for the Athens, Georgia team for the IFL that is owned by Hall of Fame running back Jerome Bettis and baseball legend Brian Jordan. So interesting. Hopefully it's the Bullfrogs. I'm hoping for it's the Bullfrogs. So thank you for joining us anyway on Arena Frontier on Gateway Sports. See you all next week.